Thank you everyone for joining us today. And this is our first session for this year and also the first session in the Impact Force series. So Impact Force series is founded last year to help everybody improve their soft skills. The mission of the Impact Force series is to learn from each other, grow and inspire each other. Today, our session is going to be on building our Salesforce career and how we navigate our job search. That is by Ben. And Justin is going to go over the interview preparation tips. And at the end of the session, we have a bonus session added, that is mock interviews. So you will get an opportunity to have the mock interviews done by Ben and Justin. So if you are interested to participate in those mock interviews and get the feedback, please let me know. Please send a message to me directly. So I will add you to the list, and at the end of the session, we can have those mock interviews done. And a little bit about me, I am Jyotsna Bitra. I go by the name JB, and I lead the Salesforce Marketers Group in Phoenix, and I am the founder of the Impact Force series. These are the couple of sessions that have been conducted last year. So you can find all the recordings in the YouTube channel, Trailblazing Together. A couple of sessions are on networking and how to build our brand and how to get prepared for the interviews and how to be a great presenter at the Dreamforce or any other conferences. And here's a snapshot of all the upcoming sessions. These are all going to be awesome sessions. So Gilda, Michael Burton, Shivnath, Tracy, Amy, Amber, Leandria, and Ben session is happening today. So we have all the amazing sessions coming on. Some sessions are on building a brand, and Tracy is going to conduct a session on I Am Remarkable, which will be very helpful to each one of us. So please stay tuned for all the updates, and also follow the group's page to get updates to see all the list of upcoming events. And next upcoming event next Saturday is about the Salesforce Champions program. So if you're interested in applying for the Salesforce Champion program and want to know what it means to be a champion and what it takes to be a champion, what are the perks involved, what activities you have to do, and all of the insights, you can attend this session. And this is joined by all of the amazing champions. It's going to be a great panel. Don't miss this out. This is happening next Saturday. And a few of the upcoming events in the marketers group, the Salesforce Marketers Consultant Bootcamp is going to be kicked off this next Feb. This is going to be a 8 to 10 days bootcamp. And next, there will be a Marketing Cloud Intro series, which is focused for the absolute beginners in the Marketing Cloud. So you can get all these updates in the group page. So join the group to get all the automated notifications. Out this session only 2 days before, and Justin was so willing and he's so excited to join us and present on the preparation tips. And we kept the session to help you all get prepared for the upcoming career fair. So make sure to utilize this opportunity for the mock interviews as well.
And I've tailored this more towards online because of what happened in 2020. Welcome to wearing masks, right? So I am a Salesforce administrator, been working at Be The Match for the last 18 months. Half of my time was pre-pandemic, half of my time has been from home. Before that, I worked for another nonprofit. That was my accidental admin experience of about 4 years. And I got some other experiences I might mention later. I'm also the host of Career Cloud Radio. That's a podcast that's been around for, 5-6 years. For the last 3 years, last 50 episodes, I became the host, and I've interviewed a bunch of career coaches, authors of books on careers, and my favorite are some tool makers to help us with our careers. Highly recommend jobscan.co to compare your resume to an applicant tracking system and how they would be reading it. That's one of the tools I interviewed. And then more recently, I've become known in the Salesforce community as a mock interview coach. Bradley Rice's group, Facebook group, Salesforce for Everyone, is how I kind of broke in. And he's been kind enough to let me become the mock interview coach for his program, career development program. But the first impressions aside, people, I am right there with you. Oh, shoot, I didn't animate that. All I was going to show is, let's be real for a moment, is, I haven't cut my hair since March and February. There is a lot behind the scenes here, right? And so some of those learnings are that going online, body language is completely lost. Almost 80% of it's out of the rectangle that you're looking at me from right now. And so what that means is to become cognizant of this and start to think about what your body language looks like as you're doing a job interview through a camera. So one of the first ways to teach body language real quick is if everyone looks at the camera instead of the picture of my face and then listen to my voice, it's weird. Like you're not seeing the face anymore. That's what we want to do in person, right? But when you're on a panel interview with 6 people on the call or 2 or 3, it's actually an advantage. You can now give everyone eye contact at the exact same time by looking straight directly into that camera. That's just one way to look at it, but watch for other clues too, to body language. The next key learning from 2020 is set up your environment. This means lighting. This means picking a wall in your room to be, or a house or apartment to be the background. This means spending 30 to 40 minutes just getting it right, and then having it all ruined because 4 hours later in the time of day, the sun is set and now it's all different. So just work on that and be cognizant of what type of lamps you're going to need to bring into the room, what type of things you can do to make sure your face shows the presentation of you that you want. Recorded interviews are increasing. This is a new addition to my presentation, guys. After different Salesforce Saturdays, somebody revealed that one of their interviews was a higher view where you submit recorded answers, okay? So I wanna hit on this one for a little bit. Real quick in the chat, has anyone had a recorded interview? Go ahead and let us know, and then JB or Ben, just let me know what they say. That means you get a timed recorder emailed to you. You'll be prompted with a question, and then you have a 3-minute timer, maybe only 2 minutes, depends on which platform they're using. You'll get maybe 2 takes. So you can delete the first one because it was terrible. You can try it again. And then, depending on the platform, you might have to use that one. But I think very commonly you can delete 2 retakes and then you have to go with that 3rd one. And so this is why job interview practice is the niche I am carving out for myself, because I believe everyone needs to start preparing today for interviews in the next 3 to 5 years, because those platforms are extremely popular on the hiring teams because they get to consume a ton of job interview answers with efficiency and consistency. HR cares about fairness in terms of being audited or sued. They don't ever want to figure out that they picked a candidate in an unfair manner. So these higher view programs or recorded programs are a really consistent way to say, no, we asked every candidate the exact same questions and then we evaluated them from there. See, so I'm going to learn more about that in 2021 and 2022. I'll bring some people on my podcast and get some more insight on that if I can get on their calendars. But just a main reason why I think you should be, at least, if you can't afford a mock interview coach, that is fine. Grab the recorder on your cell phone and at least try to audio record yourself so you can see that time of how long it's taken you to answer. And then you play it back and now you're listening instead of talking. Now you're using a different part of your brain to figure out exactly if you like your own answer, right? I'm not saying you're going to work yourself into your best answer. It's really helpful to have outside opinions or feedback from somebody like me or Ben or even a family member, because they have a different perspective on your answer. But at least it's something. My bet to the world is that using an audio recorder and practicing on your own, you're at least improving a little bit. And that's could be all the difference in your next job interview. So next one is, sorry to say, guys, networking is still the king. I meant to ask this as a question before showing it on the screen, so I've already spoiled my own point. So I'll just go ahead and make the point instead. And that is the single most important skill to improve your job interview is actually networking. Because 80% of the job interview actually happened before you even sat down in the chair. That's because if you know the person, if they're a person you've been talking to at user groups for 2 years, they know you, you know, that interview is almost procedural at that point. That is hands down the most advantage you could ever have going into an interview is if you already know the players, right? And so it's gonna be the winner. But most people don't have that luxury, especially if they're applying through job boards as their primary means to finding the opportunities. You're going in blind with strangers. You still can get those jobs. People get those jobs every day. It's just not the best way to go about it. So if you're putting energy into your networking frequently, you will see results in a shorter period of time. Here's 2 anecdotal stories for you. Tony got hired in less than 6 months with 0 experience. Just started, I want to say 2 months ago. And he's at Calabrio, a pretty big employer here in Minnesota. Christian got hired in less than 6 months as well with 0 years of experience prior. He started his search around December of a year ago. So it was a little before all the shutdowns and stuff like that when he figured out what Salesforce was and heard about it from a neighbor. But then he hit it hard, got certified once, started the networking right away after I think right around getting certified the first time. And then about 2 months later, he grabbed that platform app builder too. But his networking was starting to build momentum by then, keep in mind. And he also got hired in July as well. A fascinating thing about Christian is with the 2 certifications, he was attractive to a consultancy. So right out of the gate, his first job was from a consulting firm. So if you take anything away from those 2 stories and this page is there's no shortcuts. I'm sorry. That's kind of the question we got earlier about, what's my next step? I hear the subtext of that question is what can I cut out? Where can I not put some attention because I want to get a job faster? And I just want to connect with everyone here and say those 2 people got hired in 6 months or less because they didn't shortcut anything. They were doing networking, they were doing learning, they were talking to people just to understand what it means to be an admin. And they were showing up in group meetings like today. And I recognize some faces on these meetings. I know you guys are too, but I want you to know taking all the right actions will result in a career in Salesforce very quickly. So I want to stop for a second and first of all, reiterate Ben's point earlier. I added it to the slide as he said it because it was so brilliant. Networking is how you find the jobs that aren't on the posting boards. And that is why I still think it's the #1 skill, even more so than mock interviewing. But I don't really teach a networking masterclass because like I said earlier, it's forming conversations and keeping the conversation going. So I want to take a break here from my slides here and just pause for a second to see if there's any comments somebody wants to make, maybe read something off the chat if there's a question that came out in the chat, or take another mock interview opportunity for somebody. Let me know, JB, what you're seeing.
So we do have a lot of requests for the mock interviews. We may need to cut them to first 10 or so. I have around 11 or 12 requests so far. So if you want to take one now, just as a segue, we can do it now, or we can do it at the end.
Let's do it. Let's take one right away. I want to get into the mock interviewing as much as I can. That's kind of the difference. I usually have a 45-minute talk with slides and a lot of tips and ideas. We can do that, but I can also, point you to those videos that were recorded from some other user groups. So that's why I want to try to get right to the meat of some people's answers, because it's not me that needs to do a good job on these answers, guys. I'm here as a mirror to reflect back at you what your answer could be. So let's take the first one. You go ahead and pick, JB.
First is Manju. Manju, please unmute yourself and you can talk directly with Justin now.
Hey, hi, Justin. Manju here.
Hi. So what I want to focus on with you is the tell me about yourself question. Now, before you answer, I will preface everyone to understand tell me about yourself is usually the first question of a job interview. And it's also very important because the hiring managers have been surveyed and they say they rarely change their decision about a candidate after the first 5 minutes. Said a different way is the first impression is so important, they rarely go against it. So Manju, I didn't mean to make it more nerve-wracking or anything. I just wanted the anxiety level in a mock session to be high enough that it feels real for you so that you're more prepared when you get to sit down and answer this question for real for a hiring manager. So I'm going to hit you with it again right now. Go ahead and answer as if you're in an interview for an admin position, I assume, right?
No, actually, I apply for Salesforce tester. Quality.
Tester. Okay, we'll do that. Let's do that. So this is a mock interview question for a Salesforce tester role. And after they come on the Zoom call, the last person does the usual, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm here now. And the person takes control of the call and says, Manju, thank you so much for coming on. Tells you a little bit more about the position and then hits you with. So tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, hi, Justin. I'm Manju. I'm from India. I'm currently looking for openings in Sydney. That is where I've applied for a position in Sydney. I have a total 11 years of experience, right? So if you spend the first 5 years, I worked in telecom domain for service industries. Then I joined SAP, where I got to work there as a quality role. Then recently I got into Salesforce 2 years back, right? And I joined Velocity, which is Salesforce Industries for HANA. Okay, now it is acquired by Salesforce. And recently I joined Copado, which is a Salesforce DevOps tool. And I'm here as a QA lead. So, this is my total overall 11 years experience that spans across telecom domain, SAP domain, and recently into Salesforce.
Excellent. So one thing that's hard to do in a mock interview is do the final step of this question, which is to usually tell the employer what interested you about this role. Because all I gave her was this is a tester role, she's not really able to answer that question in a mock setting because that would kind of come from company research. But just know at the very end of that answer, that's the best place to kind of put that is, what interested me about this role was it was a lead position in testing with my 11 years experience. I saw that it might be a bigger team that I could possibly grow into a more of a leadership role than what I'm currently doing. But I like what you guys are up to, something like that. Manju, what I heard in that answer was what's called a narrative problem. A narrative is something you can't control. This is what the listener hears and doesn't ask you about because it might be a little sensitive or inappropriate or irrelevant. So they fill in the gap for themselves. So I'm going to reveal to you what I filled in, and I need you to correct it right now and add it to your answer in the future. You said you're from India. Can you clarify if you're eligible to work where you would be applying to? Like coming to a US opening, or you mentioned Sydney. Do you have,
yeah.
I don't know what you need for that, but do you have that eligibility?
Yeah, so definitely I have that eligibility. I'm PR in Australia, and I'm looking over to relocate there in this after this pandemic. Yeah, so that is Perfect. Where that interested me to apply this for this role.
Perfect. So the problem with narrative gaps like this, guys, is if you don't learn about them, you can't ever fix them and control that narrative. So now that I know that about her and boldly asked for that information, that's not going to show up now as a red flag a week from now as the hiring team comes together and tries to figure out, can we hire Manju? Well, I don't even know. Is she eligible to work here? And they start talking about the other candidates for the next 30 minutes and she's done, right? It's unfortunate, but it can happen, right? And so now you can just throw that little detail into the beginning. You know, I'm looking in the Sydney area because, you know, I got family here and I'm eligible to work here. This happens a lot in US openings, guys, because the H-1B visas are so tight right now that you see it even on job postings, you know, sponsorship not offered and stuff like that. Now, I'm no lawyer. I don't know how that process works, but the solution is if you have that eligibility to just make sure to call that out. The next part about her answer is she highly emphasized the 11 years experience. So that's good, but I want to teach you how to make it better. So my question for you that we need to throw some more flavor into your answer is, why Salesforce?
Okay, so when I entered Salesforce, I really I mean, it just happened and I entered Salesforce. But after working in Salesforce, I really want to be here because I'm really finding a lot of interesting different roles, and there are a lot of certifications that is available, which I can which helps me to validate myself. So I mean, Salesforce is really interesting, and I just want to continue here further.
Mm-hmm. So there's a problem, and I'm going to stay with Manju here, because I need everyone on this call to get this. And I know I want to get to another person next. I'm running out of time, but we're on to something big here, guys. And it's going to break her answer through and it's going to break yours through. I asked her why, and she gave me more facts. What she said there, everyone says in the community, the Ohana, right? So what I'm looking for is her. Why her, right? For her answer. And you'll each have to come up with your own. And a little trick I've found to get at this is, I'm going to ask you the last and final question before we move on to the next person. So I've given you a lot to think about here. I'm sorry I don't have more time, but answer this one for everyone to learn from. When did you know it was going to be Salesforce for your next part in your career? Describe that moment you realized, I'm going to go forward with Salesforce next.
Okay, when I started releasing my first release in my project, okay, for example, when I was working in Velocity, okay, we released a feature, okay, that was really that really gained a lot of popularity in the Salesforce integration, okay, Velocity Salesforce integration, and that really got a good name for me. So that is where I thought this is Salesforce is really giving me some interesting some, when I'm not getting the right word, I'm sorry. Yeah. So that time I felt this is going forward, Salesforce is for me.
All right, guys, here's the fun moment. I'm so excited. She did it. This is what I do. I reflect back at you what it could have been and how close you were to it. Okay. Imagine what I'm about to say was part of her original answer in that first impression of tell me about yourself. Okay, I'm going to do my best to recreate parts of what I remember, okay? Hi, my name is Manju. I am from India, but I'm currently looking for opportunities in Sydney and elsewhere because I have eligibility to work in both places right now. And my future is in the Salesforce career path. I've been a tester for 11 years and I was very successful at it, but I've noticed that it's a really great career path for my next 10 years. And that's because I saw on one of the projects I got to work on that it perfectly bridges my experience on pre-sales teams and kind of sales enablement teams, as well as the IT side I came from, the testing I mentioned. And that bridge was really realized in this one project where it was a Salesforce implementation, and I got to see the reaction of those users and how they were excited about the platform, helping them do their jobs. And I want to move my career closer to that kind of feedback. You know, in 11 years in IT, I can tell you there were some years where we didn't get that connection to the end user and how they use our tools that we deliver to them. So what interested me about this role, that's still another tester role, I recognize that, but the things your company is working on have me really excited. I need to fill in a couple here. And the potential to be part of a larger team where I might have opportunity to grow into a slightly different role or leadership role just really gets me excited about what you guys are working on. So I'm excited to talk to you more today about that. That was about 2 minutes. I hope it sounded better. In my ears it did. But what's really important here is we're not scripting that out. I don't need to type it out from Anju. She lived it. But what we structured there was getting right into a story that illustrates why she knows Salesforce is the next part of this path. And so we become an audience to the character journey. We want to hear about Manju and how she's growing for the rest of this 35-minute interview. And that's when a big piece that's missing in most people that I talk to is they start laying down the facts. And I'm like, everyone has those facts. All right, let's move on to the next one, JB. Thank you so much, Manju, for joining us and sharing with everybody your answers.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Justin.
Oh, I can't hear you, JB.
Thanks, Justin. So do you want to continue with the presentation, or are we good now to go with the
Let's
mock?
do another mock interview. I gave her like 5-8 minutes there, and I feel like I've taken time away from others. So I want to get right into the next one. You know, slides are slides. Let's do the real stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next is Gaby. Gaby, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just walked away for a minute. Hi.
Hi, Gaby. What kind of role are you going for?
Well, probably starting with an admin, but that's not really where I want to end up. So that's kind of where I would be going now. I do have experience. I was started with Salesforce in 2008 as an accidental admin. I've been off and on.
Where do you see yourself? I'm gonna interrupt for sake of time.
Oh, sure.
Where do you what's that dream role that you didn't want to tell me about a moment ago?
I don't know, probably consultant, could be developer, I don't know, sales.
Sales of Salesforce?
Yeah, that'd be great. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's go down the admin path. I made that choice, so it can be a start for almost all of those you just listed. But since I didn't hear clarity there of like, oh, I'm embarrassed, but I really wanted to do this. I can't provide a tip there. But so let's mock a admin opportunity for you. What was the last one you applied to? Employer name or what they did?
I haven't applied for any yet.
Oh, yeah.
Currently,
Okay.
no.
So I'll give you one. It's healthcare. They've got a big team, so it's kind of a junior role. But full admin position. It's just there's some clues in the posting that describe that you'll be working underneath a senior admin to learn from. All right. And then you get an interview because you're certified. If you're not right now, don't worry about that. Let's just pretend we're in the future, okay? And then the question I want to ask is to teach everyone on this call about another subtle thing. The most common question is, tell me about yourself. The second most common way to start an interview is, why don't you walk me through your resume? And the tip here is they're exactly the same question. You got to set up for me why we're going to talk for the next 30 minutes, okay? But I'm going to ask you the question, why don't you walk me through your resume? So go ahead.
Oh my gosh, my resume is very long, but can I just start with my elevator pitch that I just came up with this morning?
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I'll kick you off again just to keep it mock, okay?
Okay.
You get on the call, there's 3 people on the call, it's a healthcare, they tell you about the position like I just did, and then they say, why don't you walk us through your resume?
Okay, so you know how busy executives never have enough time and their work-life balance often goes out the door? So I'm the glue that holds it all together. I support our CDO and our digital transformation team so that they can do what they do best, which is make money. Basically, okay, so I don't want to go into like a super long spiel about my career, but yes, that's pretty much the majority of the work I've done. I've been on the operations side and sales support. And I've been in the, working world for many years. I don't know where else you want me to go with this. I don't want to take up too much time.
I'm just letting you feel it through. I'm purposely not interrupting at this moment because you're helping me make a point and I appreciate it. So thank you so much. The point is, this is why we practice, guys. These nerves that you just heard right there, this preparation you heard her doing because she had written something down in preparation. These are exercises you can go through to help you learn your messages. They're all important, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to put it out of your mouth, right? You got to speak. And this is where I see people struggle a lot because it's a personality thing. Some people like to write notes down, take notes. That's the pro tip that Anita referenced in the chat, guys, was if you're a note taker, that's your personality. What you got to do is flash your notepad across the screen at the beginning of the interview and say, I'll just be taking some notes over here, guys. Because that is non-verbal. Well, if you don't say I'm taking notes, but it can be a non-verbal communication that's why you're looking over here. Because guys, if you look away, remember we talked about body language? From that camera, what do they think is happening? Are you distracted? Are you checking your cell phone and looking at a text that just came in? They don't know. So that's very dangerous to think that you might not be paying attention to something really important like a job interview. I said it another way once. Getting somebody's undivided attention is extremely rare. And a job interview is one of the last safe havens where that's absolutely expected. So really make sure you're working on looking at the camera instead of down at the monitor and where you position that camera on your laptop so that you start to build this kind of non-verbal connection with people. Okay? Because you don't want to waste that undivided attention. Now, back to your answer. I liked what you wrote, by the way. Now, the trick is to say it enough times now that it feels natural. Like a stand-up comedian might practice the same joke over and over again, and it just rattles off, creating this illusion like he just thought of it, but he didn't, right? So it's okay to go through the exercise of writing it down, but just understand what's really important about those words is not the order, it's the message. I don't want you to stutter because you didn't say it like you wrote it, right? You just got to get the message across. And the message I got was clear. You're pivoting your career out of one industry into the next, and you're not totally sure what that connection point will be. And you're hoping you'll find out in the next 20 minutes of the interview. And that's not going to work too well, but that's okay. You'll learn through it as you do more, okay? It's just practice, practice, practice. Real interviews are a form of practice. I should know. I did 22 to get the job I have right now. 22 interviews at different companies until I landed my offer finally. So what we need in your answer is more about what you did in those experiences. Because you landed the message in the first 5 seconds about making some money. I like that, but because it's a big business win there. But then when you're talking about operations and that you used vague industry terms and not specific job title type terms. So I kind of lost the picture of who you are and what skills you're bringing to the table. So I'd like you to try it again right away. Something I won't do with more people today, JB, but this one's important because they're all important. It's our lives, right? Why don't you try it again right away? Why don't you walk me through your resume?
Okay, so you know how executives are very busy people and they never have any time. Work-life balance usually goes out the door. Well, I'm the glue that, as an executive assistant, I'm the glue that holds it all together. I have many years of experience in sales support, supporting C-level management and their teams helping them do what they do best, which is make money. Better? Less nervous?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm just still trying to think about what you did to help them make money. So let me repeat back for everyone. This is that reflection again, okay? I'm going to try my best using the clues you've given me to add to this answer. And you can keep if you like it or use it as inspiration. How many years have you been doing that?
Oh, probably plus 10, I would say.
Yeah, say 9+.
Okay.
10 ages us. I would walk us through your resume. Well, for the last 9 years, I've been an executive assistant, which to me has evolved to mean helping enable people do what they do best. So if that's assisting you named the title there, but CMO, it's helping them do their advertising better. If it's assisting a sales leader, that's helping them make sales. But whatever it is, I'm that person that figures out the details so that they don't have to. And I'm looking at this next role, Salesforce administrator, because from what I've been learning the last 6 months as I explored this industry, is that type of skill is valuable to being an admin. Being able to find those details that are often missed by other people and make sure that we don't miss them. Because when it comes to taking a process and making it efficient, that's what my previous leaders that I supported have come to rely on me for. Okay, so there's still some work to do on that answer, but what I hoped people heard there was making it personal. And people don't like to make it personal because it's a job interview and it feels gross to sell yourself and be proud of that. So learn phrases like I was relied upon for, and the feedback I got, and people most valued me for this. It's helpful to put it into that third person to get over some of those feelings about talking about yourself. Was this helpful at all? I'm feeling like there's more work we could do with your answer, but you've done some great prep already, so I want you to be proud of that.
Oh, I thought that was brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, it's very helpful.
Okay. The hesitation you're hearing in my voice, guys, right now is like, I have a suspicion with her answer and which she's revealed to us so far that we're so close to a major breakthrough, and I desire to find it, but we just don't have the time right now. So just letting you know that that's what coaches are for, is to spend an hour and a half with people until we find those things, and it can take a much longer conversation. So JB, I saw you come back on the camera. Thank you. I am ready to move on, but once again, everybody in the chat, let's give a big shout out to her for mock interviewing with us.
Thanks, KB. Thanks, Justin. So the next one I have in the list here is Suchita. Or Kanchan, if you're available, please let me know if you're available.
Well, she comes on the line. I'm noticing myself do something that I'll point out to others. I feel, so close to a breakthrough with Gaby that my brain is still spinning, and so I'm getting uncomfortable, and so I'm wringing my hands because I'm still processing and thinking about that last 5 minutes, right? But I want to point out, body language wise, I'm starting to look uncomfortable, unconfident, the opposite of confident. So start paying attention to some of those, especially on all the Zoom calls you're in with family, friends and stuff, and start to notice what you think that person is portraying with their body. I use casualness. That's why you see my slouching and stuff, to try to show comfort, but it's a knife edge before comfort turns into arrogance. And I'm aware of that. So I'm still working on it. Next one, you ready?
Yes, so Suchita can go next. Suchita, let me know if you're available and I'll unmute you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Josna. Hi, Justin. Suchita here.
She didn't pop onto my my panel of faces, so I'm not getting a name. Could you repeat your name?
Suchita, Suchita.
Suchita, okay.
Yeah.
Pleased to meet you.
I'm sorry?
I said, pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. So let's try a different question now. We've talked about, tell me about yourself, given some tips there. We've talked about preparation and writing it out and how that can help you find your messages, but then there's another step of practicing. With you, I'd like to go into a deeper question, which would be middle of the interview. So we've probably at this point in an interview mock setting passed long by the first impression. You've set a wonderful one, by the way. And we've gone through, tell me about yourself. We've talked about the position, probably asked you about your major accomplishment. I'm going to hit you with a hard one designed to make you, maybe feel some things. And that is, what do you think your greatest weakness is?
Greatness, weaknesses. I cannot listen and I cannot write at the same time.
That's a great one. Let's break that apart now for you, for a job interview setting. So I would love that she was honest with us, guys, because here's the secret to this question. The greatest weakness question, or something like it, is gonna elicit emotional response. So you have to first learn to control that. And then the second one is, internet articles will point you in the direction of something dumb, like, well, I'm too punctual, or I'm an overachiever. And it's like a good thing said negatively. But if people see right through that, don't do that. Don't do that. So I love that she picked something that really sounds negative and just is honest. I know this about myself. I have trouble listening while I'm also writing. Okay. So the trick is to take honesty, make it authentic, and then spin it back for the next 30 seconds or so as to what you've learned to overcome it, or what you're doing to monitor and mitigate kind of how that affects you in your workplace. Okay, so let's pull that out right now, Sujita. When you learned that as you're taking detailed notes, you also are struggling to listen, what happened next?
So sometimes I miss some important, sometimes it happens that I may miss something which is important. I know I should not say this, but then this could happen. That's what I can feel of, but that's my understanding. But
so you're worried about missing something important. So what did you do next to now that you're aware of this can happen? What are you doing now when you're in the workplace to avoid missing an important detail?
To be very frank, I sometimes record the message so that I don't miss the important part. But I know that it is not a correct way to do it. But for me, I just do it so that I don't miss any important things in the work as of now. I record that whatever important conversation I have with the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And you listen back to it later, right?
Yes.
Awesome. When you record, are you using a personal device or the Zoom record feature of the meeting that you helped set up?
So sometime if they will permit me that I can do it, I will do it based on that. Or if I think that it is not a good idea to ask them, I record it on my phone.
I understand. So this is an interesting dilemma, guys, because I am aware that some corporate cultures have rules against recording devices because they never want them to be used in a lawsuit of an employee that said something inappropriate or something like that. And so they protect themselves by making their workplace safer legally by not allowing personal recordings without permission. So bringing that up in a job interview could be a big risk. So this is an example of using the way out of the true weakness, but spinning it with emphasis on a safer way to do that. So listen first to how I do that. And then, unlike other people, I don't think I'll have you try it again, but I want you to at least hear what that would sound like before we move to the next person. So now I'm pretending to be her, and I get hit with the same question, middle of the interview. Tell me about a weakness. And she can try something like this. Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but one of my biggest fears in a meeting and working with stakeholders is that I'll miss the most important detail. And so, but also in the role that I've often been in, I'm expected to take the notes and work out the story and capture those requirements that are important to the stakeholders. And so it's kind of difficult to be writing or typing up notes simultaneously while listening as they describe their problem. And so, what I've done to overcome this is I've tried to be the one to request the meeting so that I'm the controller of the meeting invite. with the people in that call. And it's actually been an advantage now in the last 12 months with working from home that all meetings are now virtual, because that gives me the option in most organizations to use their WebEx or Microsoft Teams recording feature of the meeting. And, you know, like I said, if I'm the person who schedules it, I get to also be the one to record it.
Right.
And then I have that stored and safely filed away. So my process for, you know, eliciting requirements or working with the stakeholders in general, or pretty much any meeting where important information is coming up, is to record it if possible. And then I'm often the person to review that recording and summarize it into written communication or a story, you know, for the rest of the team. So honestly, my biggest fear is turned into a really wonderful resource for the entire team, because they all have the same notes and now none of us miss the important detail.
Okay.
So I hope that illustrates for people how you can take honesty and something very authentic and real and move it in the direction of something positive before you finish the answer. I want some feedback on that one, because these are one of the most difficult ones. Did people capture that, or should I spend more time on this point?
Actually, here, can I chime in real fast with Eric? I think we could spin that to a positive. There's another great podcast I listen to besides Ben's and Justin's called Deep Listening. And that one I suggest everyone to listen to. Where they say the difference between a bad listener and a good listener is that a good listener knows they're a bad listener. And that's why, also going to your defense, Justin, you weren't reading the comments, which is good. You're not multitasking. That's something that we have to first listen to ourselves, first not multitask. But when you were apologizing for moving your hands, I think that is fine. It shows your mind is working. So I put in the comment that I keep a stress ball nearby so I can use it when thinking, to keep my mind active when listening, keep my attention, and to pace myself when talking. So it's more mature than a fidget spinner. So for the fact about the notes, I think you could spin that. I mean, not even spin it, but have the perspective that you're a deep listener and detail oriented. So you prefer to record meetings to not miss information and not compromise your notes that you contribute for the team.
Right. What did somebody else get out of that sequence with Sajita?
I'm sorry?
Sajita or anyone else, I'm curious what they heard there in that last sequence with Jason's comment, my comments, and her answer.
I think my take was, I know I have something negative, but then how that negative can turn into the positive way, I learned that. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So pro tip here to really boil it down, communication's hard. It's the hardest, most valued skill I feel in any workplace, any team, especially technology. So it's a soft skill. It's very difficult to demonstrate during the live job interview, and it's comes in multiple mediums. So you have written communication, you have verbal communication, you have non-verbal communication, and you have what I would add to that list is political communication, where you understand the dynamics of a team and who's leading it and who's got agendas and stuff like that. That's the highest level of communication understanding, to strategically communicate based on the politics too. And so these are soft skills that are extremely hard to put in writing on your resume. And so the interview is where they're going to really start to shine. But what you have to do is start to look at your experiences and pull out of events that happened, projects you worked on, these moments where those soft skills were challenged, and tell that story. Okay. I feel a strong need to share my greatest weakness answer that I used for a couple years. I probably have new ones I could come up with, but it's just not top of mind. But just to connect with everybody and say we all got one, right? For me, one of my greatest weaknesses is my arrogance. It's been something I've developed over 30 plus years of being on this planet, of approaching every situation with such high confidence that I can occasionally tip over that knife edge and come across somewhat arrogant. So what I've been able to do in the workplace and with teams that I work on is I form stronger relationships so that they always know where I'm coming from. They always know my intent to the mission or to provide the best product. And that's formed long before, a moment where I might have crossed the line. And so what I do also is I've learned to say I'm sorry and let people know, like, I'm sorry, I really felt strongly about that in that last meeting, but you absolutely convinced me of your point of view there. And I think, the next best action with that solution is to go down process builder instead of flow. Something like that, something real controversial, like flow versus process builder. But then we have a laugh or something, but that still needs some work there, to spin it back to the positive side. But I wanted to just kind of say, like, I've got my own flaws too, and what we develop over time and more practice is what is the highest impact story we can choose. So I might throw that story out someday when I've got a better one that's a little softer, a little less damaging than being egotistical in the workplace. Nobody wants that coworker, right? Nobody wants the coworker that'll miss important details. But if you can get to the end of that story and talk about how you grew and changed, everyone wants that coworker. And I want to pause there for a moment, because that is the hero's journey approach to job interviewing, is to show your adaptability and ability to change. So that was really two answers embedded in one there, guys. If you start by looking for your ways to communicate and telling stories about your soft skills there, communication. We found another one there by the end there, talking about your ability to change and learn.
We are 2 hours into the session now. So we have still 5 or 6 members who requested for the mock interview. And I'm sorry, even though we wanted to do as many as we could, but we have this time limit and we may not be able to do the mocks for everyone. Just to let me know if you want to do the last interview, or you still have time or not.
I'm getting kind of hungry. I made the mistake of not eating lunch.
Okay.
I'm really curious to do one more, but what I want to do is what we'll do is I'll just get to the slide that I want to find in my deck that I forgot about, and explain that slide, and then we'll do one more if you're okay hanging on the line for just another moment.
Sure,
don't use virtual backgrounds, guys. They suck up bandwidth, and the listener might not tell you if that is causing them to have trouble on their end. So this is a slide I wanted to end on for people, is to point out that I'm trying something new in 2021, where I want to be able to make mock interview coaching more affordable, and more importantly, have people be able to hear other people's answers like you did today. And so I want to put together a small group, maybe 4 people or less, sessions using Calendly that I just got this year. I think I have a way to now kind of facilitate it and get those on the calendar. So I'm learning this feature of this platform to see if it'll work for this purpose. So, bear with me if we got to do some emails back and forth to coordinate or combine some sessions as people tell me what times work for them through this app. But for $50 per person, I'm more than happy to do more of what we're doing right now in a small group setting. So there's some very flexible options in there. I've got an option for payment immediately. I've got an option for pay me when you get your job. And I've got an option for, if you can't afford for whatever reason, I understand it's been a difficult year. All I ask is you tell other people it was useful and pay it forward instead. All those options are described in there if you go to that link. So I think we have some ways that people that we didn't get to today. I'm more than happy to have you sign up on that list using one of those options that works for you. Okay.
So we still have the offer on.
That's right. Let's do one more then. And we'll call this the final one then, okay?
So we have Vidya next. Vidya, let me know if you're here. And after Vidya, if Vidya is not available, we can go with Shreya. I'm gonna quickly check. Vaishali, you can go next. Okay, is Hem Prashant?
Hello. Hi, Jyotsna. This is Hem Prashant.
Go ahead, Hem Prashant.
Hello, Justin. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
This has
Pleased
been
to
a
meet you.
great, lot of useful information.
I'm glad to hear that. What kind of work are you looking for in your next role?
I'm looking for a Salesforce developer, Justin.
Wonderful.
Currently, I'm working as a Salesforce developer, so I'm looking for the same.
Wonderful. My last 18 months is the first time I've been able to work side by side with some developers. I will tell you, I don't have any, experience with a developer style interview. So I, take with a grain of salt the advice I give you in this next moment. There are better people to learn from, but I'm happy to give you my best reflection back to you like we've seen a couple of times today. So what question have you been seeing in developer interviews or heard about that you most fear?
Yeah, one is about the weaknesses actually.
Okay. I'm happy to do that one again. It's totally worth doing again. Have you had it asked to you in an interview setting though? Like, is there a way, do they word it any differently to a developer setting? Or is it really just tell me about a weakness?
Yeah, it's about weakness and what to say, general interview questions which are non-technical. So those things I feel kind of uncomfortable with. Like technical, I'm pretty decent. Like I won't say expert. Like I'm decent with.
But you feel comfortable in a technical question. What's the difference between a roles and a profile, or tell me about a time you used Aura components. You feel like you can answer those, right? That's an interesting distinction to realize that you have some confidence there, and it's these other ones that you want to talk about. Awesome. That's a clue already. So let's try it right now and we'll see what we learn. Real quick before I ask this question, I do want to give a pro tip to everyone because I've seen some amazing names here today that I'm just not used to growing up in a kindergarten class full of Chads and Karens. But in the beginning of your job interviews, if you have a non-traditional name to Americans, it is good to state your name because we are probably trying to be sensitive and not butcher it. So I heard when you introduced yourself a moment ago and got unmuted that I would have pronounced it wrong, put the emphasis in the wrong syllable if I had just read that for the first time and made my best guess. So anyone who is worried or commonly has their name mispronounced, it's totally normal in the tell me about yourself question to say, my name is Hempercent. I still worry that I did it poorly there. Because at least you give them because I'm sure you've heard in a job interview them do that pause where they're looking at your resume and they're like, well, thank you so much for coming in today. Why don't you tell us more about yourself? Where they were going to say your name and they just skipped over it. So just a little pro tip there. Somebody like Jason, don't need to do that. We know how to say Jason. You don't need to start your interview answers with, well, my name is Jason Zykowitz. I'm pleased to be here today. Now that just seems redundant if they're reading that on your resume. So we're jumping into the middle of the interview though, about 10, 15 minutes into the interview, they'll ask you, well, I'm feeling pretty good about your technical skills. No, those were fine. Thanks for answering those for us. Why don't you tell me about your greatest weakness?
Yeah. So like my weakness, what I say is
stop
like,
for a second. I'm going to interrupt you here because there's a lesson that just happened. He was silent for 4, maybe 5 seconds. In a job interview, your anxiety is so high that those 4 to 5 seconds probably felt like an eternity, maybe 2-3 minutes of silence. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? I got to think of something right now, right? I just want to point out, we've already passed those 4 seconds. It didn't bother me one bit as the hiring manager. I won't even remember those 4 seconds. You got about up to 7 seconds of silence, just fine. If you open your mouth and say something audible, you get another 7 seconds because we know you're thinking at least and you didn't disappear on us, So like I want to alleviate some anxiety that comes up when you need a moment to think of your answer. 4 seconds ain't that much. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead and start again.
Yeah, no worries. Just yeah. So my greatest weakness, or what I think, is like converting the solution from a technical standpoint and explaining it to a non-technical user. It's more around communicating it from a technical to non-technical, or converting that one. So
you've illustrated the exact weakness that, ironically, you've illustrated the exact weakness. You stopped too soon. So you stated what the weakness is, matter-of-factly, but I was looking for illustrating the example, maybe with illustrating the weakness with possibly an example would be another way to take this. Or this is an opportunity where maybe you don't necessarily have like a soft skill to point to redirect the answer, but instead you can say what you learned. Now that you're aware of this weakness, what have you learned about that weakness and how it impacts you? And out of that, maybe we'll develop some strategies for what you can do in the workplace with it. But I'm curious what's happened ever since you've noticed this.
Yeah, yes. So what I'm trying is like whenever I have to convert this one to a non-functional thing, so I imagine a younger person in front of me, maybe a school kid or a child like that, and how would I explain it to them? So in that way, I try to make the technical recommend of the solution in simpler terms.
I really need an example. When's the last time this occurred?
This was when I was talking to a functional Salesforce functional consultant.
Oh, no. Like, tell me a story of a time that this happened and what happened next.
Yeah. So like in Salesforce, like we have custom metadata, right? So I have implemented a solution based on the custom metadata, and there's a filter framework which I implemented. So basically what it does is it's a custom solution which filters the data from the backend, and it sends it to the LWC component. So this filtering, it's a admin configurable one in the custom metadata. So like here, like we can introduce filters similar to a socle class. So that will be processed in the Apex and it will be sent to the LWC. So this way, I think like something I missed. I went a bit too more technical in there, and I couldn't exactly convey it to them like about the custom metadata, or why we need to go ahead with custom metadata and why not custom object. Like I can say like custom metadata is faster and like what to say, more constant metadata, and like it's more frequently accessed and rarely changed on. And so like due to the performance objective and some other advantages, we go ahead with the custom metadata. So
yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with the concept of custom metadata. We're using it in my org today. In fact, that screen I had up earlier with the tree fitty code is going up to Marketing Cloud. It's going back down to Sales Cloud, and in Sales Cloud, it checks against a custom metadata record that has 1,800 codes like it there to just see if it matches those. You know, so I'm vaguely familiar with some of what you're describing, but I'm not following all the terms, and that's giving me a clue as to how we can approach this answer. You've actually demonstrated yet again that you're very technical. I see why you're doing fine with the technical answers. So let me try to reflect this one back, and it's a hard one. So you've hit me with a good one. So I'm kind of excited, but I wish I could spend more time on it, because there's so much we could. You could go multiple directions to bring this one to a close. There's some stuff in there to unpack and pick which one resonates with you the most. So what I'm about to say is one way I heard it, okay? As Frank Luntz says in his book, Words That Work, it's not what you say that matters. It's what they heard. So here's what I heard. Because I've been in a development role for a long time, and working on some very complex solutions, I sometimes lose sight of how to communicate without those technical words, the same concept. And so what I've learned to do is to think very carefully about which audience I'm in front of at any moment. So if I'm doing an implementation review with my peers, I'll definitely tell them about key phrases like LWC without explaining what that is, or metadata, or other terms that we use regularly to build solutions. But the moment I have to sit in front of a non-technical user, I will change my language because they don't know what LWC means and they don't care. And so what I've learned to do is to think about how I would explain this to a child. I don't imagine my users to be children, that would be rude. But I imagine how I might explain it to a child if I had one in the room, and I test some of my language against them to see if it makes sense to them, because if it doesn't make sense to a 8-year-old, why is it going to make sense to my users, right? Who don't need to build the solution, they just need to use it. Another area that can work for me is to better communicate to non-technical users is maybe looking up a blog article to see how they've explained it to the audience of readers, and maybe use some of that language, as well as testing the language before the presentation. So if I'm preparing for a demo of the solution, I might ask the QA person or the product owner for just some quick feedback on, like, would this make sense to say about this? And just show them something quickly, one-on-one, before we bring it to the large group, so that I understand what they don't need to see and edit that out of my demonstration of it. Lastly, if none else works, I focus on how they perform the action. So rather than explain to the teams exactly how we did it, I just focus on what they need to do to use it. And that might be click here, look over here, this will appear here, like stuff like that, but all in all, it comes down to understanding which audience I'm in front of at any moment and changing what I say as best I can in those moments. That's a hard one. That's a really hard one, because I think I struggle with this one too, giving too much information. And think you can tell already by talking to me for 2 hours, guys, I'm somewhat of a philosopher in nature, and I love to give that context of why everything needed to be that way. I'm known for writing somewhat long emails at work, by the way, because I give that context. But what I've learned is I put some of that context after my signature now. So it's like I get to say it the way I want to say it, but they get to choose whether or not they read it. So because I've already signed off, I've said, thank you, regards, Justin Ducks. Below that, that's like saying, if you care that much about the details, I got them, but you probably know what you need to know above this.
Yeah.
So that's a little clue how I do it, because I resonate with some of that part of it. But what did that make you think of, 100%, to hear it that way?
Yes, Justin. So the opening was very good. Like the way which you put it, like working too much in the developer role and working closely with the technical implementation of complex requirements. So I find it a little bit difficult to convert the implementation, like convert my language from a technical to a non-technical thing. And
But
yeah,
then
the other way.
Yeah, and then when you do the answer again, continue. Then you've stated your thesis there. Then you have to support your thesis, like writing a paragraph. You have to then illustrate and end with what you learned. That's the structure of your answer there.
Wonderful. Anything else, Him Prashant?
No, Justin. I'm good. Thank you, Justin. It was awesome.
I hope it helps.
Thank you, Justin and Him Prashant. This is so huge, and it's fully loaded. So many insights for everyone. So I'm sure people will want to go back to the recording and review all the inputs you have shared again. Thank you very much, Justin. And in the meantime, we are doing the mock interviews. Now Ben has been going through all the resumes that were sent to him, and he is also providing the inputs directly. And Justin, if you don't have anything, I will pass it on to Ben now.
If you don't mind, I think I'm going to drop off the call. My dogs need to walk and I need to get some lunch. But it's been a pleasure, everyone. This is my favorite thing to do in the world. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. This is so incredible.
Thank you to everyone that sent CVs through so far. I'm working through them. There's quite a few, so I will get to you all as quickly as possible. I just wanted to say one thing before we finish up, and a few people have commented saying that there's not many jobs in their location, or they've asked me, why aren't they getting much luck with finding jobs in their location? The one thing I just want to reiterate is that not every job is online, and I think, like, my honest advice is that you shouldn't just rely on recruiters, and you shouldn't just rely on job applications online. I think it's really important to start taking control of your job search and researching which companies are in your location, finding out who are hiring managers at those companies and reaching out to them directly, because you'll get a lot more direct feedback, and you should get more luck if you're reaching out to companies and taking control of your own job search rather than just relying on what's online.
It was incredible, Ben. I really appreciate and I have a lot of respect for you. And this is very early in the morning. You have joined us and you have extended to make sure that you have all the questions answered and all the resumes you are reviewing so far. This is so helpful for each one of us. Thank you very much, Ben.
My pleasure, and nice to meet you all. And please connect on LinkedIn and keep in touch, everyone.
Sure. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We wanted to make sure that we have all your questions answered, but considering the time, we're already over our time today. We'll make sure any questions that we have, we'll try to answer them offline. Be sure to register for the upcoming sessions and attend them. Next coming up is Saturday, Salesforce Champion Program, and hope to see you again next week. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.